Welcome to the Daily Dave. This is your home for mini episodes that offer up podcasting tips that you can use today to help you on your podcasting journey. Join Dave right here for your quick tips, suggestions, feedback, and more. The Daily Dave is also available via email. Receive the Daily Dave straight to your inbox by signing up today at howthepodcast.ca. That's howthepodcast.ca. If you are looking to start or to grow your podcast, you are in the right place. The How to Podcast series presents The Daily Dave. Here is your host, Dave Kemp.
Hey, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. This is the Daily Dave. And had a message come in from Mark Brewer here in Canada. He's a new podcaster to be. I love new podcasters to be. It's great to meet them. Mark, thank you for your question. Mark was asking about the name of his podcast and what my thoughts were when he gave me his podcast title idea. So if you're starting your show and you want some feedback on the name of your show, I would love to help you. Reach out and leave a message just like Mark did, and you'll get an episode like this come back just for you. So Mark, here's my response to your question. And if you're creating your show and you're wondering, what should I call my podcast? Listen to my answer back to Mark, and maybe this will help speak to you as well as you plan out your show. But here's Mark's question on the Daily Dave How to Podcast series. Here we go.
Dave, my name is Mark. I'd like to start a podcast. I live in New Brunswick in St. John. And the name of the podcast that I'm thinking about is NB Traveler. It would be designed specifically for individuals that are traveling through New Brunswick as a drive-through province, targeting different things that they might see or want to do. And also for new residents that have been here for 10 years or less. I moved here 10 years ago from the Toronto area. And so I'm just wondering what you think about NB Traveler as being a good podcast name. I've already registered the web domain nbtraveler.com. Thank you. I'm enjoying listening to your How to Podcast series.
Great question, Mark. One little bonus thing for you to think about. Having a super local podcast is a great idea, and you beat me to it. I want to do one where I live, so I'm going to be following you with great interest and curiosity, Mark, to see how your podcast unfolds. What I love about this is you can actually reach out, Mark, to all of the tourist areas that people might visit, all the businesses, all the locales, the places that people should stop and get out of their car and go check out. You could go and potentially get sponsorships from these different places to talk about these places people should visit, and they might pay you to be a sponsor on your show, Mark. So you could actually potentially, even if it just covered the cost of your podcast, you could get some sponsors just by doing a hyper local show like this. And if I'm moving to New Brunswick, you better believe I'm going to be listening to your podcast. I'm going to want to know where town hall is. I want to know what kind of events happen, what's unique about New Brunswick from where I'm moving from. There's so much to learn. You can bring on the mayor. You can bring on local leaders. You can bring on all kinds of great people and talk about all things New Brunswick. I love it. Smart idea, Mark. Now, as far as the name of your show, I love the fact you've already gone out, already grabbed the domain. Smart. I encourage everyone to do that as you're building your podcast. Super amazing. NB Traveler, definitely. It's a great name. Make sure that it's something that people are going to search. So what I'd advise for you, Mark, is to think about, you can have NB Traveler, you can design a logo around NB Traveler, and maybe something in the logo is going to reflect New Brunswick. I'm just thinking of somebody, let's say in England, or somebody down in the States, sees your podcast, they don't know what NB might stand for. So they might be curious or they might pass you by. So there's got to be something in the artwork that embraces New Brunswick, would complement your name, NB Traveler, but maybe just a little extension to it, which doesn't have to be on any of your artwork or anything, but it's just when your title of your show helps people find your podcast. So NB Traveler, you could have something like, as in a book, an author will have the title of the book, and then they'll have a subtitle. So NB Traveler, find great places to visit in New Brunswick, or your guide to New Brunswick, your traveler's guide to New Brunswick, or your podcast about New Brunswick. All things New Brunswick for travelers and new residents. Okay, so something like that. Just add a little bit more to the title, because think about this, Mark. When somebody goes to a search engine like Google and they want to find a podcast about New Brunswick, what are they going to sit down and type on their keyboard? Are they going to type in NB Traveler? Maybe. It's possible. But they might be typing in New Brunswick. They might be typing in tourism, New Brunswick tourism, travel to New Brunswick, tourist places in New Brunswick. Those are the things people would be typing into their search. And if you want to capture some of that search engine juice, make sure you have something in your title, even if it's just an extension, and even if it's only in the name of your podcast, and you never even say it on your show, that's okay. But it's there to kind of help capture that information. So Mark, just as an example, if I had the Dave podcast, what is it about? Do you know? I don't even know. The Dave podcast, I have no idea what that is. I don't even know if I want to listen to that, because the name to me doesn't really tell me what the show's about. Your name's better than the Dave podcast, by the way. But just as an example, you want to make sure that people understand what the show's about and they want to subscribe and follow. So make sure that you keep your podcast name searchable. And for those looking to create the name of your show, when you come up with an idea for the name of your show, I want you to do this exercise, okay? I want you to fill in the blank with the name of your podcast. So say, hi, I'm the host of, and insert the name of your show. Try this. Welcome to another episode of, put the name of your show in there. Next one. You've got to listen to, put the name of your show in there. Or my favorite podcast is, put the name of your show in there. Make sure that the name of your show is easy for people to talk about. So if I have to explain to people how to find my show, if I have to spell it for them, if I use some weird and unique and wonderful new name that no one's ever heard of before, that's going to make it hard to be searchable. Wherever possible when you're naming your show, to try to avoid using any special characters, misspellings, abbreviations, punctuation, or new words that you create that don't exist. Those are all things that are going to have to be explaining. And after episode 25, when you've explained how to find your show, you'll be like, you know what? I think I might change my name. So before you get to that point where you're like, I'm tired of explaining how to find my show, and then rebranding or renaming your show in the future, maybe just put the effort in at the beginning so that you're not bored telling people how to find your show. Make sure as well that your podcast name isn't taken by anyone else. And then, like you've done today, Mark, and others, I would encourage you to do this as well. Gather some outside opinions about the name of your show. And just think about how your show is going to potentially evolve over time. And choose a name that you love saying out loud. For me, it's the How to Podcast series. It's a series of podcasts about how to podcast. And I've had people find my show just because of the name of my show. Now, I'm going toe-to-toe with every other podcast that has the word "the" in it. I'm going toe-to-toe with every podcast in the world that has the word "podcast" in it. I'm I'm going against every podcast that has how to in it. That's an uphill climb that I knew I needed to do and I needed to face, but it meant having the show that I wanted. So, Mark, back to your question, I would just consider adding a few more words as a subtitle you'd see on a book to the name of your show that brings in some searchable terms for people to find your show. If you need help with that, Mark, I'd love to help you. Reach out anytime. But just think about how you want to do that, how you want to move forward with that. You don't have to change your website. You don't have to change anything else. Simply the title of your show. And then once you start getting into your episodes, start answering the questions that people would be searching when they go to type in something about New Brunswick. And you can do that. Go to Google and just type in New Brunswick and let Google fill in the words. Those are what people are searching for. And those could be potential topics to talk about on your show. Type in New Brunswick tourism. See what comes up. And then use that as content ideas for your episodes. Thank you, Mark, for leaving a message. I really appreciate you reaching out. And if you have a question that you're looking for some feedback on, I'd love to help you as well. This is the Daily Dave. Thanks for taking a few minutes to check out today's episode. Stay tuned for more on the How to Podcast series. Take care.
Thank you for checking out the Daily Dave. We hope the podcasting tips and support you received added value and helped you to get your message out there. Have your own tip to share with the How to Podcast family? Head over to our website and use the SpeakPipe recorder right there on our site. Your 90-second message will be used right here on the show. Remember, the only person in this entire world that can create your podcast is you. It is your podcast. Do it your way, and if you need help, contact Dave on howtopodcast.ca. Thanks for listening.